we are working all across the world. Till date, we have implemented some 100 plus projects and have impacted over 30,000 people all across the world. We are also accredited 14 plus UN agencies, including the UN Environment Program, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, the UN Habitat, and we have participated in the UN General Assembly, COPs, and various international forums, and we regularly represent and amplify the voices of youth at these international conferences. Till date, we have supported over 200 youth and to attend over 30 international forums. And at the same time, we also engage very actively in capacity building. And we have partnered with and organized various initiatives such as the Youngo Climate Finance Academy and the Youngo Human Rights and Climate Change Academy. And yeah, looking forward to having a fruitful session with you all. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you so much. To take things further into the vision behind this space and what we aim to accomplish together, I would like to drive your focus towards our youth-led climate leadership, Vaishnavi, a teaching and research assistant at National Communications Academy, Finance, founding president of CQ, uh, economics graduate from LSR with a research degree and minor in psychology, Millennium Fellow 2024, OMLSA Fellow 2025, and US Government Exchange alumni, currently working as an associate at Nature's Dot. Over to you, Vaishnavi.
Hi everyone. I'm so sorry that I would not be taking up this right now because we are facing a little issue. The meeting capacity is over, and which is why we are trying to get the other link so that everybody else can join. So we will engage in some other activities for the time being till everyone else joins. So maybe the moderators can do the job for the time being. I'm so sorry.
Sure, sorry about the technical issues. Um, would anyone like to introduce themselves? It's really interesting to see how many people have joined already. So, would anyone like to speak up? Where are you from? What are you doing? How did you hear about us? Yeah,
Tarini,
go ahead, Disha.
a moment, please. Tarini, we
Yeah,
can talk about the certificates as well, how they are going to get those certificates, what are the milestones we are thinking about.
sure. Let's just give one or two people a chance to speak and then I'll get right into that.
Yeah.
Disha, go ahead. Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Works now?
yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Hello everyone. I am Disha Best. I am from New Delhi, India, and currently I am doing political science honors from University of Delhi. My interest basically lies in like public policy, international relations, and I am very keen to learn more about research because I feel that will help me in my further academics and in my further career. I got to know about the Climate Cadets Collective through Vaishnavi D itself. Like I met her in one of the session, and then I joined her this Climate Cadets Collective, and then I got to know more about it, and I'm very keen to learn everything in this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ndama Mikael. I am from Cameroon. I am reading a master's research at the University of Betwa, reading hygiene, safety, quality, and environment, otherwise called occupational safety. My research goes on to evaluate, to analyze how incidents, accidents can be reduced or mitigated in our society, especially in Cameroon. I am very happy to attend to this research bootcamp to learn more and to bring up my experience about research all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really happy to have you here. Before we take any further introductions, I will quickly share our today's agenda and the agenda of this research bootcamp. Is my screen visible to everyone? Okay, so the objectives of this research bootcamp are to understand the essential research skills, everything from academic writing, evidence-based research, and policy design. So we're going to be doing a lot of hands-on learning, which means that you will be writing, you will be actually practicing what is being taught in these sessions. And this will, of course, guided and structured feedback. So the session today and tomorrow is going to be content, and then after that, you'd be invited to start writing on any topic of your choice. I think more will be said by our by the founders and by those who are taking the sessions. And so after this, you have a week to write a paper, a research paper, a research article, which will have the chance to get published and certified upon completion. And this will be evaluated by our team. So essentially, you're going to leave the bootcamp with practical research experience and a polished writing sample. And at the end, once you have submitted the work and it's properly evaluated, you will receive a certificate on which means that you should have attended all the 3 sessions and submitted a paper. So yes, Daphne, you have anything to add?
There was some doubts regarding how can we get the certificates, right? So to get the certificates, you need to have completed all 3 days. And apart from that, we'll also be having some, your mentors, your trainers will also be taking some assignments or some small kind of assessments that will be done. And if you do all these things and then submit your paper as well, then you will be eligible for the certificates.
Right. Do you have any questions regarding this right now? Anyone? To answer your question, Manur, the session will last 1.5 hours. So I think until around 9 p.m., hopefully without any more technical delays.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for waiting very patiently. And it's high time that we begin with today's research agenda. So our moderators have already introduced everything to you, and I'm so glad that Parth also collaborated with us. Here, I'll just give a quick introduction of C Cube as what we do and everything, and I think that has already been given to you. We work on research, we work on youth diplomacy, and along with that, we work on bridging the gap between the two by our community and engagement programs. So today, this research bootcamp is brought to you by our research team and all these people who are speaking and moderating and managing this entire event. This is our research directors and team, and then we have the another collaborator with us, which is ECB Youth Foundation, and I'm so glad and. Thankful to Parth. This is just a quick introduction. Just move it. Just move it very quickly. I'll be introducing it to you. So can we just change it, Zapnath? Okay, thank you. All right, so do we have Anirudh over here? Because I and Anirudh would be taking today's session. Because so as I'll be giving you a brief introduction about this workshop entirely. So I don't wanted to make it like something a day's thing, and then you're listening to a lot of people and going back. So this research boot camp is designed in a way that you are going first today. We are going to focus on academic track, which is more and more on academic writing. Second, which is tomorrow, we will be having other people people who would be sharing their brief experiences with you on public policy writing and statements. And since we didn't want to make it something like just speaking and you not enrolling in something, we have a week's break for you wherein we are giving you chances, and we will give you 4 different themes wherein you can write on different agendas and topics, and then you can send those things to us, and we will get back to you on how you can mail us, or whether we will also create and release a form for that. And the submission deadline for that paper submission would be 30th, so that we get the time to evaluate those papers and get back to you by 2nd of August with the last length of this entire bootcamp of publication. So on the third day we will be having some evaluation and publication with that. So with this, I hope you're all excited for today's bootcamp and for the coming 3 more days and a week for you. Do we have my co-panelist here, Anirudh, who would be taking this session? Okay. I think somehow he might not have been able to join this meeting. Must be from Google Meet. Is he there? All right. Okay. All right. So I'll begin with today's session. Can we move to the first slide? Zafnat, also, when I need to move next, I'll just say move. So you can move to the next one. All right. Before we begin, can I myself present it? Can you send me this PDF, because it'll be easy for me to point things out very easily. Yes, I'll present it. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Hi, Anirudh. Are you there? Thank you.
Joining from
Gmeet. Can we also? Okay, I will leave from this meeting and then you join the Zoom one. Okay.
try it.
All right. Anirudh, just join the meeting fastly. I have removed someone. And once you join, do let me know.
Vaishnavi, hi. Small issue. Can you mute your mic while voice is echoing? Thanks.
I think one problem, the class limit is only 100, the other students are waiting for it.
The alternative G link available in the group. If anybody just gets disconnected, you can just use that.
Yeah, thanks so much. Am I audible now? Finally. Hi everyone. It's so nice to see you all, and thank you so much for for taking the lead, so far, Vaishnavi and also Tarini. So I believe somebody is going to be presenting the slides. Right? Do we have? Exactly. Perfect. So, for those who have not themselves, please introduce yourself in the chat. So over the next 60 minutes, we are going to explore what research really is, how it works, and most importantly, how one can become a researcher themselves, right? Whether you're an undergrad or postgrad, sharpening your skills, or climate enthusiast, who simply wants to understand the world better, right? This session is actually for you. I am Anirudh. Once again, a brief intro, and you can call me AJ. I am part of the RNI director of CCube, and I'm also a founder of Culture, and I'll be your guide through this journey. And I believe, okay. As we can see, there's a lot of these technical issues have been popping up. Right. So, as we wait the slides to be loaded, I think what we can actually get started with the question first, right? As and also dive in housekeeping the question chat, and we will pass that in mind. And I actually want to start with a simple question here. As you can see, okay, the first slide, amazing, perfect. Okay, so, every breakthrough begins with a question, right? What question will you ask? Let me start with some personal, right? I've always been very curious about the, everyday things we do, right? The beliefs we usually carry without thinking. Let me give you an example, growing up, especially since we are, most of us are joining from India, right? I heard this many times. If a cat crosses the road right in front of you while you're walking, you should stop and wait, right? Let someone else pass first. Or now I'm asking. I'm not saying this is a superstition. I'm also, saying it is a belief. Yes, but I have always wondered, right? Is there any science behind this, right? Is there any evidence, or is it just something passed down through generations, right? That question, in a way, is there evidence behind this common belief, right? That is the seed of the research, and it's not about proving whether the belief is right or wrong. It's simply about asking, right? What does the evidence say, right? So as as we all are aware, the most fascinating thing currently up and bringing, which is AI. AI can, of course, give you an answer, but can you actually trust that answer, right? How do you know if the AI's response is based on real research or just patterns? It learned from, let's say, several unreliable sources, right? That is exactly what research, in a way, teaches you, right? How to evaluate the evidence, and how to separate what is known from what is assumed, right? So how to ask better questions, that is something very important. And it's as Vaishnavi also mentioned, this is going to be more of academic exercise in a way, right? So all of these questions, right, that affect how we live, how we believe, how we make each and every decision. All of these are very much important. And yeah, so when I ask you what questions will you ask, that's what the slides say as well. So I'm not in a way asking for a grand scientific hypothesis, right? I'm just asking what is something you have always wondered about, right? Something you have noticed or questioned per se, right? or in a way doubt it too, right? That is where research begins. So please type in the chat, what is one question you have always wanted to find the answer to? It could be, about anything, let's say science, society, technology, or even a belief, right? You grew up with, right? Something that you noticed in daily life. Just one question. And I can see, uh, second. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Okay, several people are introducing themselves. That's good. I can see I can see Srija, I can see Nurul, I can see Nishma, Tarini. Thank you so much for all your enthusiastic introductions. So perhaps we can, move this to the next slide where we, discuss a little bit about the foundations of the research, right? So as you can see, research in a way, uh, uh, changes the world. Uh, we all know, and we in a way assume, or academic exercise, right? It's in a way the main engine of human progress, right? So from a lot of these aspects, let's say from different laboratories to life-saving breakthroughs, you can see, look at these words on the screen, right? We have vaccines, climate action, we have AI, we have space exploration, we have clean energy, right? Take vaccines, for example, right? Before, I believe that many or some of you are aware of cowpox, right? The Edward, one of his research on cowpox in 1796, smallpox killed 30% of, everyone it infected, right? It had, in a way, killed, and research states that it, estimated 300 million people in the 20th century alone, right? Then, there came Jenna, who noticed that milkmaids who caught, cowpox, did not get smallpox, and that's when he asked why. Right? He tested the hypothesis. He published those findings. That research, that single line of inquiry, eventually led to the complete eradication of smallpox in 1980. So research, in a way, literally eliminated disease that had, let's say, plagued humanity for thousands of years, right? So we could connect this back to the questions I've asked earlier to about the cat crossing the road per se, right? When I wondered about this belief, right, I was doing the same thing Jana did. I noticed people, what something people did, right, waiting for a cat to cross, and I asked, why is there, any evidence for this, right? Why Jana noticed milkmaids did not get smallpox. I noticed people waited for cats. That difference is not the same kind of question. It is the method, right? So they've used the scientific method to find an answer. Most of us never take that, second step, right? So that's where we sometimes wonder, but we do not, in a way, properly investigate. And that is what research training, a chance or in a way, creates to, and the tools to take that second step, right? So if we can move to the next slide. I think we have a lot of these synergies and a lot of these examples as well. We can keep you in terms of, how and why this research is very important and valid, right? Just like, yeah, you can take the example of ChatGPT, right? Yeah, in 2020, that's when the ChatGPT launched, right? By 2023, it was almost the fastest growing application in history, right? But AI in a way did not appear out of nowhere, right? It is a result of decades of research, right? We have initially neural networks, right? First proposed in 1940s, right? That's when we have the machine learning algorithms, which later derived and were developed in 1990s, right? We have the transformer architecture, which was invented in 2017. So every time you ask, Claude or ChatGPT a question, you're using the accumulated of, thousands of researchers who asked, how can we make, let's say, machines understand language, right? So we have a lot more, as the slide mentions. So we have established that research in a way matters, right? So we need to properly define it now. The systematic pursuit of knowledge to answer meaningful questions using it. This is what is, right? So let's break uh, down word by word, right? Because every word matters, of course. First, systematic research is a clear process, or you can say, structured way of process, or with all of these clear steps, right? This is what in a way separates research from all of these opinions. So anyone can have opinions, right? A research, any sort of research, has data, methodology, and a transparent process that actually others can verify. That is what it's all about. And so if we were to bring in the AI, right? When you ask ChatGPT, is there any science behind not cutting nails at night, for example, right? It searches its training data and gives you an answer. But is that research? No, right? It is the information retrieval, right? The AI has done that searching, but it has not done that systematic, investigation, right? If you want to actually know the answer, you need to go a bit deeper, right? You need to find the original sources. You need to evaluate their, actual quality. You need to understand the context. That is what, research training gives you, right? You have that flexibility or the ability to go beyond the surface level answers, right? Second, you can see the evidence based, right? Research in a way does not care about what you feel, right? It cares about what uh, properly the data shows, right? Which is difficult, right? It means you have to be willing to be wrong, right? uh, there is a saying that a good researcher does not start with an answer and then look for evidence to support it. Right? That is confirmation bias, which we usually call it. Right? A very good researcher per a question. Right? We collect evidence honestly, and lets the evidence speak. Right? Even if it in a way contradicts what they expected. Right? Uh, there is a famous story in psychology in 1950s. uh, there was this researcher, very famous, right? Solomon Asch. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he designed some of these experiments to study conformity. Right? He experienced, or he expected to find that people would mostly resist social pressure. The data then showed the opposite. People conformed to the group when the group was clearly wrong. He published the results anyway, right? Because that was what the evidence showed, and that research has in a way then shaped our understanding of human behavior for decades, right? And then in the same way we have impactful research is not the knowledge for its own sake, right? Though that has value too, but best research in a way creates certain knowledge that in a way serves humanity too, right? So in a way the key point is systematic plus evidence based plus impactful. and that is the research. So if any of these three is missing, it is not research. It is just an opinion per se. So can you think of any or something you have seen online that presented as a research but was actually just an opinion? Maybe this is just just a small homework for you to find that, to understand if that is a research or not, right? Maybe something someone shared on social media claiming studies show, right? Something like that, without actually linking to any study. Maybe you can also, if you have come across any as such, you can type it in the chat, or perhaps that's for the next session. You can provide your findings too. So if this is it takes us to the actual research journey. If we can move to the next slide, it gives us more better understanding about the roadmap, right? Now that we know what research is, right, we need to understand, or at least look at that journey, right? Because that's the roadmap that every researcher in a way follows. And the first question or first step is the question, where everything begins here, right? Not with a hypothesis, not with literature review, right? With a question, right? Sometimes you are just curious about something, and something you don't quite understand, something that actually keeps you up at night, right? And if we were to take let's take the question: why do people believe that cat crossing the road brings bad luck, and is there any evidence for this belief, right? That is a real research question. It is specific. It has two parts: the origin of belief and the evidence, right? It can be investigated then, right? So we also maybe you can also give these a bit of a thought in everyday questions that you might be having, right? To how the origin of belief and the evidence, if you were to link it up, then if it can be investigated or not, right? So that's you can actually find if that's going to be a research question or not, right? And yeah, so uh, in a way, the step two, you read, right? You find out what other people already know about your question. That is not optional. It is how you avoid reinventing the wheel, right? It is also how you discover what is not known, and which brings us to the step three, research gap, right? The single most important concept in research gap. That's a question that has not been answered yet, right? It is the space between, let's say, what we know and what we need to know per se, right? The research project lives in that gap, right? So uh, we know a lot about the history of superstitions. We know a lot about the psychology of belief, but there is a gap, right? We do not fully understand how these beliefs persist in modern or urban India per se, right? Especially among educated young people, let's say, right? Do university, let's say, students in Delhi still wait for a cat to cross the road? If yes, why? If no, what changed? That gap is a research project. Now, here is where AI becomes very relevant, right? You could actually ask ChatGPT, why do people believe black cats are unlucky, right? And it gives you a paragraph about excuse me, about, let's say, medieval Europe and witch trials or something like that, right? But that is just the starting point, right? The real research, the gap, is about how this belief in a way functions in your specific context, right? AI can give you background, it cannot do your research for you, right? And that's where it brings to the step four, methodology. This is your plan, right? How will you answer your question? For that, again, retaking that cat belief, you might use a mixed methods approach, right? A survey, let's say, to measure how many people still hold this belief, and interviews to understand why. Which brings us to the step 5, data collection. You now execute your plan. You go out into the field, you run the survey, you conduct the all of these interviews, right? This is the messy but yet beautiful, often frustrating process of gathering all of these evidences, which brings us to analysis, which is step 6. And this is where you organize your data, you look for all of those patterns, you run all of these statistical tests, right? You code your interviews, you ask what is the data telling me, and which brings to the result, which is step 7. This is what you found, just the facts, no interpretation, no and none interpretation yet, right? Which brings to step 8, which is discussion. And now you interpret, what do the results mean, why do they matter, and how do they connect to the literature you read in step 2, right? And which brings to the final, which is conclusion, right? You summarize everything, you answer your original question, and you in a way suggest what should be researched next, right? So and I think all of this is a very huge process. The research, right? It's a tedious job, but of course it's intimidating, but in a way it is worth it. To at least, and to at most, to uh, you know at least me, it gives us sleep when we understand certain context behind our main questions, right? So yeah, which takes us to the next main other slide, which is methodologies. This is where we understand the research methodology and design in a way, right? So you can see all of these types of research. You have this research grid, right? As we just discussed, research is not one thing, right? It is many things. And choosing the right type of research is like, let's say, choosing the right tool for the job, your main everyday to day job, right? You would not use a, let's say, hammer to screw in a nail, right? So you need to understand what works when, right? Basic research, uh, you can see each of these cards, right? Uh, Basic research has, if you were to understand a bit deeper, knowledge has its own, sake, right? No immediate practical goal, just understanding how the world works, right? And we have the applied research. This is where the research with specific problem to solve, right? And for example, as again, my cat question could be applied, research if I want to understand how superstitions, affect decision making in modern India, right? Maybe I want to know if belief in a cat crossing the road actually changes people's behavior. Do they miss appointments? Do they change their route? That has the actual practical implementations, or implications for understanding how irrational beliefs in a way influence daily life, right? And you see this quantitative research, right? This is all about numbers, statistics, measurements, like how many, how much, how often, what is the correlation, right? So if we were to take this and put it on the cat question, then I survey, let's say, 500 university students in Delhi, right? I ask, have you ever waited for a cat to cross the road before continuing? You can rate from 1 to 5 how strongly you believe in this, right? I get certain percentages, I get correlations. Maybe, let's say, women are more likely to wait than men, or maybe the vice versa, or maybe the older students are more likely than younger ones, right? This is the quantitative, right? The qualitative research, it has, it is all about the words, the meanings, the experiences, right? Like, for example, what does it feel like, right? What does it feel like for you in doing something, right? How do people make sense of this, for example, right? Let's say, I sit down with 20 people who, very strongly believe in cat superstition, right? I ask them, tell me the story of when you first learned about this belief, right? Why do you still follow it? Maybe, has it ever been proven right? Maybe there might be certain, circumstances or coincidences, right? How does it feel when cat crosses your path? So this is very, very personal, right? This is the qualitative. This is where you get the experiences, right? You get the narratives, you get the emotions, you get the personal histories, right? We have this mixed methods. This is the best of both worlds, right? Numbers and stories. This is what I would recommend for the cat question too, right? You survey 500 people to get the numbers, then interview 20 to understand the story, behind the numbers. Very simple and very direct, right? We have climate research. This is a big one. We will dedicate an entire session to it later. But we have policy research in a way, designed to inform government, let's say, decisions per se, right? If my cat, study showed that, superstitions significantly affect behavior, I might recommend public awareness campaigns about, all these evidence-based decision making, right? So the type of research you choose depends on your question, right? So always start with the question, then choose the method, never the other way around, right? Which takes us to the next slide, uh, which is the framing, the crafting. Okay. All right. So now let me read you a poor research question. Is climate change bad? Right? Now, if we were to apply this to our example, a poor, research question, is it true that cats bring bad luck? Right? This is terrible. Right? It is too broad, right? What does bad luck actually mean? It is not measurable, right? And it, in a way, assumes the answer is, either yes or no, which is not how research works, right? A good research question, in a way, how does the, let's say, belief in the black, the cat superstition, persist among university students in Delhi? And let's say, what factors predict whether an individual holds this belief or not? Be specific. This is why, the specificity is very important. We know, when we talk about specific, we know exactly what we are studying, right? The black cat superstition, university students, Delhi, factors that actually predict the behavior, right? And we have measurable. We can survey, belief levels in a way, right? We can measure factors like age, education, religion, maybe even urban versus rural upbringing, right? These all comes under this measurable. And there is this achievable. Let's say a student researcher can, survey 300 to 500 students across, few Delhi universities. This is what, is actually relatable and can be achievable, right? And then the relevant, this tells us something about how, traditional, beliefs survive in modern educated populations. And we have time bound. This can be done in, one semester per se, right? Now, here's where AI comes in again. You could ask, ChatGPT, help me turn my, broad question about cats into a smart research question, and it might give you a reasonable starting point. But you need to evaluate, whether that question is actually answerable, right? Whether it is original, whether, it actually matters, right? AI can actually help you brainstorm, but as you're aware, it cannot tell you if the question is worth asking, right? That is in a way your judgment, right? So this is what we are proposing, and we would say that a good research question is very specific, right? It is specific enough to be answered, right? And but also broad enough to matter, right? And also it should be very new as well in a way, right? New enough to people want to contribute to it, right? So use the SMART framework. uh, I believe that now you've understood, right? SMART, right? SMART framework. Test your question against it. Maybe you can just yeah, in your free time, just do some couple of research. Yes, the PPT will be shared and can be shared later too. Yeah, thanks for asking, Mohammed. And now it brings to the next amazing slide, which is also very important. Research objectives. Amazing. Once you have your research question, the next step is, of course, to break it down into objectives, right? Objectives are, as you're aware, the practical steps that will help you answer your question, right? And let me, apply this to the cat belief example again, right? My research question: how does the belief in the black cat superstition persist among university students in Delhi? And what factors, let's say, predict whether an individual holds this belief or not, right? So we have, let's say, three objectives here, right? It can be the first objective to identify the prevalence of the black cat superstition belief among all of these university students in Delhi, right? How many students actually believe this? How many follow it? And this is the basic mapping, right? And there can be the objective two to measure the relationship between the demographic factors, right? Like, for example, age, gender, field of study. We have this, we've been talking about urban rural backgrounds too, right? Which is also very important, as you're all aware. And we have this religious upbringing too into the consideration, right? These are very important factors to consider. And belief in superstition as a whole, right? Who is more likely to believe? Who is less likely to believe? This can be the objective too. And three, we could explore the source of this belief. Like, how did students learn about it? Like, from family or from friends or from media, and why do they still continue to follow it or not follow it to this day, right? So as I've just mentioned, each of these objectives are very clear and these are very actionable, right? It needs to be, bless you, it needs to be actionable, to actually to make it very clear, right? If we achieve all these three objectives, like for example for this cat question, if I achieve all these three objectives, I have answered my research question, right? Objectives are not optional. Very important, you need to understand, right? They are the actual bridge between your question and your methodology, right? Without objectives, you have a wish, not a research plan. That's it. You need to understand. And this is another question for you, maybe, what is the difference between a research question and a research objective, right? Perhaps, if you've understood, maybe you can type it in the chat, or this can be your homework for the next session. And this brings us to another slide. Wow, a lot, a lot of slides. How many slides are there? Okay, standing on the shoulders of giant. Amazing. So this is about the literature review. Very, very thorough. Very, it's a. This is not just a beautiful phrase, but it is literally how research works. Standing on the shoulders of giants. as Newton said in 1675, he meant that he could see further because he was building on the work of those who come before him. That is the literature review, right? Why do we review existing work? 5 reasons. Okay, first, discover what is already known. Okay, you might have a brilliant idea, right, about, let's say, I'm taking this example again, the cat superstition, only to find out there is already a whole body of anthropological research on it. That is not failure. That is, in a way, save time, right? Read their work, learn from it, and build on it. Okay, so if I search for black cat superstition research, I will find studies from psychology, anthropology, a lot of these folklore, studies, right? I will learn that the black cat superstition in Europe dates back to, let's say, Middle Ages, when cats were associated with witches, right? But I will also find that in, let's say, Japan, black cats are considered good luck, right? In some parts of England, a black cat at a wedding is considered lucky, right? This, in a way, tells me the belief is not universal, right? It is cultural. Now, I have a foundation, right? Then you have the second, which is identify knowledge gaps. This is the most, important reason. Let's say, as you read, you will notice several questions that have, not been answered, right? You have a lot of these contradictions in all of these findings that you're going to be, getting along the way of your research, right? Populations that have not been studied yet, right? I find that most research on the in context, very little has been studied in contemporary India, especially among these students, right? Is you know yeah, right? And loophole. There is the gap, and that can be when you see relevant literature, right? It is a conversation with other scholars, right? It is how you find your place in the, let's say, academic world, right? So, which brings us to another possibility. I think if we can move to the next slide, more defined, identifying the research gaps. Okay, amazing. Yeah, we have a visual here. We've talked about research gaps several times, right, throughout the slides. Now, if we can, walk through a little. Yeah, as you can see, current knowledge, right? We have these 3 boxes. Current knowledge is all about everything we know about the topic, right? For the cat superstition, we know its history, we know its psychology, we know it exists across centuries or across cultures, right? The gap, we can see what we do not know, like how does this belief function in modern urban India, maybe, right? Maybe among educated young people, right? Does it conflict with their scientific worldview, or do they compartmentalize, maybe, right? So your research, in a way, can be from all of these 2 different boxes and 2 different pieces. It can be your job, maybe to understand, maybe basically your research is all about your job to take a small piece of that gap and fill it, right? One survey of, let's say, 500 students, one set of interviews, and one paper that actually adds to the knowledge, right? Here is, let's say, my gap in my, my my own words. We know, a lot about superstitions in general, right? We know a lot about Indian culture, but there is a gap, right? We do not know specifically how the black cat superstition is understood, believed, and practiced, or not practiced, right? Let's say by university students in, let's say, Delhi in 2026, right? That gap is my research project, let's say, right? It is, of course, not the biggest question in the world, but it is, it can be one question, right? And it is answerable, right? Your entire research project lives in the gap between what is known and what needs to be known, right? Always find that gap, fill it, and that is your contribution, right? Which takes us to the most important aspect of the research gap. If we move to the next slide, research methodology, amazing. So this is all about the data and the methods, right? And you can see the blueprint about it is very simple though, right? We have our question, right? We have our gap. Now we need a plan, the methodology, right? For example, for the cat's superstition question, here's my methodology, right? First, we have this design. We can have this mixed methods that we've discussed earlier. It can be quantitative survey to measure, let's say, prevalence and correlations, and it can be the qualitative interviews to understand meaning and context, right? We have the sampling and data sampling, let's say 500 students across 5 Delhi universities, right? University of Delhi, JNU, Jamia, Ambedkar University, and let's say a private university like maybe Ashoka or Shivnagar, right? All of this stratified by, let's say, gender, field of study, let's say, and year of study, right? That's sampling. And we have data collection too, right? We have online survey for, let's say, the quantitative part, right? 20 in-depth interviews for the all of this qualitative part. And we have analysis for the survey. It is all about the descriptive statistics, like chi-square tests. I believe that most of you are aware of them, right? Which we've been studying in our bachelor's in our high schools, right? We have these chi-square tests for all of these associations. We have the logistics regression to, let's say, predict belief. And for the interviews, we can have this thematic coding, right? We have, if we move to the validation, it says it is all about comparing, let's say, my findings with the existing literature. Do they actually align? If not, why? Get feedback, from a supervisor. That's validation. And final, reporting, right? A research paper or a dissertation chapter per se, right? Which can actually move to the next slide. Move to a bit more in depth. Right. Now that we understood the methodology, right, which was the blueprint, right, which, without that, you're building, without a plan, right? With it, anyone should be able to replicate your study, which is very important, right? That validity, people wanting to, validate your idea, and it should be easily replicable too, right? So which brings us to this comparison table, qualitative versus quantitative, right? Let me make this, distinction, let's say, crystal clear using our running example. Qualitative, if I want to understand what it feels like to hold a superstition, even though know it is not rational, the internal conflict, the social pressure, let's say, the family tradition, right? I need a qualitative interviews. I need, different stories. And quantitative, if I want to know what percentage of students believe in the cats to superstition, or whether science students are less likely to believe than humanities students, right? I need a survey. I need numbers, and that is what quantitative is all about, right? Together,
Oh,
they can give
hi,
the full.
Anirudh, am I audible to
You
everyone?
are. Yes, yes.
All right. So I have a question. Like we are getting a lot of questions, and there's this one that is important to address. So people are asking, what are the parameters about the research paper that we are going to follow up, and also the publication part of it, and everything. And I read all your questions and comments. Thank you so much for being so engaging. And for that, uh, we are having this first bootcamp, this first session. Tomorrow we have another as well, where we would be mostly discussing about the policy statements, and we have some other people who are actually working on it from the ECB Youth Foundation who would be joining and taking up that one. So my answer to all of those questions is that please just stick to the session, stay till the end, attend all of them, and by the end of it, you would actually know all the parameters that we would be actually judging. These are the parameters that Anirudh has just mentioned, and we are half through the session, and I see that we are almost getting over the time. So I'll just try to wrap it up very quickly. But all these parameters that we are talking about would be taken care of. About the publication part of it, I have a good news for all of you. Since we are a climate collective, we are working on climate research itself. So obviously, we will publish a lot of good ones on our website. You might just go through our website and see all the different publications that our research team has gone through. But absolutely, all of those will be going through a lot of editing, and if that would be required and your support in that would be appreciated as well. And apart from that, some publications assistance can also be given to you, knowing that we have some collaborations with an international journal which works on sustainability. So if your paper is, we'll try that you, whatever you are writing, just try to stick to sustainable research, climate, and SDG 13 and something on that. So, Anirudh, would you mind if I take up the session from now onwards?
Please take the
All
lead.
right. Yeah, thank you so much for giving a lot of insight till now. So, as Anirudh has already mentioned, the qualitative and quantitative one, can we go to the last slide of research methodology, Zafnut? Yes. So when we're talking, so Anirudh has very well mentioned the research methodology to you, right? And we have a few other slides over here which will be mentioning a lot about how to read a paper, right? So when we're talking about the research methodology, specifically, there are two types of research. One, as you would have been seen, one is the quantitative and one is the qualitative. So qualitative is followed in a most of other disciplines such as not psychology is a very mathematical and one of the most statistically used, but the ones some such as the history, political science, and some other subjects like that, philosophy. So these follow the qualitative research methodologies, and those also have a lot of methodology in them. And someday something that we follow is called meta-analysis that is being followed for these qualitative research. And apart from that, there is the second field of quantitative research that is followed. So, whenever we are talking about some research methodology, to some extent, when we're talking about the qualitative research methodology and research part of it, the research methodology is explained, but is not that integral part of the entire research paper or research project, right? You just need to tell them that whatever are the different references you have taken and you are actually working in, what analysis are you having. So you just write a small paragraph in qualitative research about research methodology. But when it comes to the quantitative ones, the most important part of the entire paper becomes your this research methodology. So if you would see into this slide itself, the research design, sampling, data collection, analysis, validation, and reporting, this is entirely being followed. Which kind of research methodology? This is following the quantitative one, right? So if we move to the next slide. Yes. So in quantitative one, when we say that you have to specify, very majorly all the methodology that you're leaving and that you are following. Let's move to the next slide. Uh, yes. All right, data collection methods. So the first thing that you have to follow in a quantitative study is that data collection method. How do you collect the data? And that becomes the most important part. Now, as Anirudh has been explaining to you what exactly research means, right? You need to actually get something out which is not there in the circuit, which people do not know. So the best way to make your research stand out is to work on primary data. You need to work less on your entire framework, but to collect that primary data becomes a very haphazard task. But then after collecting that primary data, you need to manage it entirely, so that some of the sneak peeks can also be coming out from that data that you can present in your paper. So although every single field of research in academia prefers to have some primary data, and that is the most advantageous thing, that if you're working on a primary data, but there comes the most difficult thing also along with that, the collection methodology. So either you go on ground and start collecting it by doing surveys and questionnaires, by having interviews, by having some case studies, by listening to people, by having some field observations, you going there and just noting some things out, doing some experiment with someone that is mostly focused and taken up in psychology part of it, or either you focus on a particular group and study it entirely. So when you take the primary data, there are lots of issues that comes. Of course, the funding, you going there, you living there, that requires, and then the attitude of the people also you have to deal with while you are actually going through the primary data. But when it comes to secondary data is absolutely there, and there is nothing wrong in actually using a secondary data, but you must know that it is most trustable, and it can also be used. So when I'm saying secondary data, trust is the issue. So we have to always look into some authoritative websites, authoritative databases, the government reports and databases, the satellite data and remote sensing, scientific databases, IPCC reports and UN data, when we are specifically talking about the research and sustainability. So one thing to keep in mind while doing this is that every single database is procured and collected by having a methodology and by having an objective in their mind. So the objective that has been followed while collecting this database that you are using secondarily, while will not be the same as the objective of your particular research question as well. So while you are actually working on your secondary databases, the objective must be very clear, and you must also know how to change it. So, for example, let's say when the government publishes NFHS data, which is National Family Health Survey, they tell you about the situation and the the situation of the entire country. But when you are studying, let's say, how the gender growth how exactly the women in education is leading to a growth in country's GDP. Now, there is this different motive of collecting some particular data. So you need to keep in mind and then take the specific chunk out of that entire NFHS data. You only need one or two labels and one or two columns of it. You do not need the entire database to be played and to be handled with, and then that is giving you some anxiety. Oh my god, how to handle it? So this becomes one another thing, and I hope that later in some part, if you want, the research team can also organize one another specific research boot camp specifically on data analysis, so that you can know how to use data collection methods and a lot of other things while you're doing your research. Move to the next slide. Zafna, just keep moving. Yeah. Research ethics. I'll come to this. Next. Paper versus dissertation. This is also very much important thing. So because nowadays India is following this new education policy, and a lot of times people, you all should be aware as to what are the different methodologies which are followed in academic research. So while we're talking about research, this can be presented. I say presented in three different formats. One can be a simple research article, a small research article which is having some of the word limits of up to 2000 to 2500 is something max, or 3000 is max that you can have for an article to be a research article. But when we're talking about a research paper, the specific word limit goes from 5000 to 10,000 words. I'm saying from 5000 to 10,000 words, but the ultimate number that the international journals take actually is something 7,000 or 8,000 max. So if you're submitting to some good journals, they will only ask you about am I stuck? Am I audible to everyone? I hope it is. Okay.
You're audible.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
are audible.
So when we're talking about a specific good international journals, the word limit they ask for is 8,000 or 7,000. So we need to also make sure that whatever we are writing is also presentable and is also in the under the word limit so that it can directly be published. Right. So that is a research article 2,500. It is a small brief of your entire research. Then comes your research paper, and then comes a larger part of it, and this is what we call the dissertation. Most of us actually work in our academia, or let's say in our universities, people in our masters, in our phds, we do not write papers, we are actually asked to write an entire dissertation. So now how are these three different things differing? Now understand the chronology or whatever it is. Dissertation is a larger part, it's an entire book. Now from your particular dissertation, this does not have a word limit entirely, but your university decides the word limit. Okay, it can be from 20,000 to 80,000 plus words, and it can also depend on the discipline that you're working on. But then we come to the second part of it, and that is called the research paper. From your dissertation, you can publish 3 to 4 to 5 different research papers to different places. And that is what I mean, that dissertation is a larger concept that you have worked upon. In that dissertation concept, you might have 2 3 different things that you have worked upon, and that two, three, four different things are being published in form of a paper in very specific format. And from those paper, let's say someone read it and someone has worked out you yourself has worked out on a research article that is being published on a simple website, let's say in our Climate Cadets Collective's website. So this is the difference between research paper, research article, and what we also call the dissertation. Let's second next slide. Okay, understanding changing planet. Next slide. How to read a research paper. This is also very important. Anirudh, I think you can take this very well up. Do you want to take this one? All right. Okay, I'll do that. Okay. So when we're talking about reading a research paper, all right. So see, when we mentioned that we need to look into the objectives, so Anirudh actually mentioned that research objectives and methods have to be very much clarified. So let's say you're working on a particular research right now. You have a particular topic with yourself. Your objectives are clarified. You know that what you need to follow, but right now you need to choose a methodology for yourself as to how you should write your own paper. And for writing your own paper, one of the most important concept and a part of a research paper is what we also refer to as literature review. So for reviewing that particular literature, you need to read a lot of papers. So when I was working on my particular research, my professor actually mentioned that you must actually base your entire research paper or methodology on at least when I say at least 5 different research papers you must have read thoroughly. But when I say you must have read thoroughly, means that you must select those 5 different research papers from thousands and thousands of other published research papers which are there in our databases. So when I'm saying how to select those 5 major research bases, which will become a research base for your entire coming new research, you need to focus on this IMRD discussion or this methodology. First, read the entire introduction once. Entire introduction, always whenever you are yourself writing a research paper, abstract becomes the most important part of your research writing. In your dissertation, there is this entire introduction and the research problem that you have to mention before you actually write entire dissertation, right? So you read the introduction or the abstract and decide whether this is concerned with your particular research that you're following, or it is connected, or somehow it can change your idea. Is it related to some extent or the other? If it is not related, just move on. Do not even look into it entirely and throw it away and look up into the next paper, right? After reading the particular abstract, and if it is matching, do not read it entirely, then move to the next session, and that is the methods or something that we also refer to as methodology that has been followed in that particular research paper. And this becomes a turning point in your entire research journey. Why? Because your methodology that has been followed in this particular paper can give you a different scenario and different way to lead and to search for that particular research problem as well. How? So for example, I was working on tracking some climate finance flows, right? So that was okay. Now there was no study on climate finance flows, but I saw something, and that was on one of the paper was mentioning the how exactly the GDP of the country is being affected somehow, or how exactly the petroleum prices and some of the other coal prices are to some extent, fluctuating with that. So they were actually doing some data analysis along with the prices of petrol, along with the crude prices. So I got this sense that somehow or the other, the finance which is coming, or whatever the country's GDP is, to some extent, when we're talking about green growth and all, it is being impacted. It will be, the price of petroleum will be a very big issue, or will be a very big factor contributing it. There I get another idea. Then I got another idea. Okay, this can impact this, so I have to look into it. So you look into others' methodology, because you do not know, and there is no means and end to the methodology. There are different types of methodologies, of course. There are being followed descriptive, and a lot of other different kinds of methodologies are followed. But you also can look into others' methodology and try to adopt the same one in your particular research with different factors, with different variables. So that is where your reading a research paper becomes very much important. First, you read the introduction, that you check the methodology, and if that matches, then take that up within your base. And then lastly, the results, because this result will tell you entirely the research gap. The first thing that we discussed in the entire paper was a research gap. What is a research gap, and what are you even trying to fill while doing your research entirely? And that you will only get when you read people's research results. When you read others' results, they will also mention limitations beyond this. So after results, there's this third part, which is discussions, and with discussion, they also mention some of the limitations. They also mention some of the future scope. So you read that and try if you can actually work on those future scopes or those limitations as well. Right. Next. Common research mistakes. Yes. I think very much explanatory by itself. Poorly defined research questions, very much important. Because anything you do, if you research, so someone reads your research, let's say, and does not understand what you were trying to do, that doesn't make sense. So most important thing is that you need to specify your research questions. Question can be one. The most good research papers have one question to be clarified, but then the followed up are followed, and a lot of other things, but at least one should be there, and max it can be 3 to 5. Like in my entire dissertation, I had only 3 questions to be answered. And this is something very important, to define your questions so well. What are you actually trying? You must be very much clear before you actually ask or tell or present your research paper to someone else. Then weak or superficial literature review. Absolutely. In today's terms of AI, where you can just put your entire another research paper and do ask it to review it for yourself and give some comments, then this becomes a very much superficial review. That doesn't make sense. When you are actually referring to someone else's research results and something else, you need to make sure that you are adding up something to that comment as well. Otherwise, you will get a lot of plagiarism issue, or your research would not be given that much authority, and new thing would not be present in your research. Then biased and or convenient sampling, whenever you are collecting some sample, some primary data, and let's say it is about education policy in your country, or let's say in your area, and you go to a particular school in an area and take 50 children's interview or something, and then you actually predict entire country's thing on the same thing. That doesn't make sense. The research is flawed. Your research does not have any good thing, because your research is only focusing on a small area, particular areas, schools, only one school's education system, and then you are framing entire country's suggestivities on the same thing. That doesn't make sense. So convenience sampling issue, and these are all statistical things that you need to be very much aware while you're doing it. Poor citations, very nicely done. Ignoring research ethics. Yes. Next. Okay. Future research frontiers. Now, this is actually very much important. Now, when we are talking about the sustainability and climate research, and after this session, we have another session tomorrow on public policy statements that we send to other UN and others, and also to the local areas and local government bodies. Also, if you are working on a policy, then how to next organization will be taking that up. But these are some of the future research frontiers that you can note down as of now. Maybe take a screenshot, because these are the topics that we will be giving to you for writing your research proposals to us that you need to submit by 30th of August so that we can formally get on it. So we have actually not, taken this just to climate itself. We have something on artificial intelligence, health, and environment and smart cities. But also, I would be really glad there are greater chances of it getting published if it's worked on sustainability and climate around only. But yes, absolutely inviting other fields as well, because our work is to review and give you the final good remarks so that you can build more on it and it is in a publishable journey. Next. Okay, what you carry forward, research begins with your curiosity, evidence builds knowledge, knowledge creates solutions, and solutions transform society. I think this is the end, or there are the slides. Essential resources, very much important, guys. All of you just take a screenshot of this entire PPT or this one. This is important. Research databases that you can use. Google Scholar, where research databases are the databases from where you can download your research papers. Okay. So there is Google Scholar, there's Semantic Scholar, there's Web of Science, there's JSTOR, there's Scopus, there's PUBMED, there's IE Explorer, and there are so many other that you can explore. But these are some of the very authoritative ones. So make sure that you are also referring to papers which are published on good research databases like these ones. So you need to refer to those ones only, not here and there. Okay. Next, that we have the data where you can get the data related to sustainability. UNEP website, NASA and Earth data. There are all of these websites wherein you can take climate related data. Reference managers somehow or the other, because AI has made our work easy, and make sure you're keeping all the research and whatever you're referring to in a particular rough format, and then you can use the same rough format thing in all of these AI, Zetro or Mendeley, or even you can ask ChatGPT to actually write it in a formatted reference format. So there are three different formats: APA, MLA, and then there is this one more which I'm not right now getting right. But mostly in most of the sciences, APA format is followed, which is American Psychological Association's format, which is given. If you would go and ask your GPT to actually format your particular reference in an APA format, it will definitely format it for you in an APA format. So that is not an issue. But actually, there can be an entire session on referencing, because this is not a small thing that can be explained in one particular session. It becomes larger because there are different types of references and formatting. But right now, AI made it easy for you. Next. Some of the publications websites for you, or said, and all that we will be discussing next in the last session on the 2nd of August. Publication and your evaluations will be followed. So now, before we actually complete this there is this one very important thing before we actually go and conclude this session: the ethics in your research. The ethics become the most important thing whenever you're doing a good research, and actually as a person also. So what are the good ethics that are to be followed in a particular research? Your paper should not be published anywhere else, and the same topic cannot be, so there are some ethics. Firstly, when you're going for primary data collection, you need to make sure someone else is not getting disturbed with your primary data collection. You cannot yell at that person. You have to be very nice and gentle. And if we say no, that you cannot record this particular thing, and I am not actually giving you the permission to give this, even if this person is talking to you and the case study is there with you, and last moment this person says, hey, what are you going to do with this? And at that moment you say, I am going to publish this research case study in one of my publication, and I'll mention your name, and you should be happy that your story is getting published. Until unless you have that person's consent for doing that, you cannot do this. And this consent should not just be in mouth words. There are proper certificate, there are proper approvals that you need to take and sign. Always take written permissions from all of those people whenever you're going and doing any primary survey. So for example, even if in today's time, whenever you're doing some primary survey and you're actually making some Google form and sending them out, before you actually start with the question, you need to start with the question first, that you consent that this data would be given. If you do not want your personal details to be shown, for example, your name, your age, and the class you belong to, we would definitely keep it very private. So this is one most important thing, that also, until unless it's necessary that the person's detail, for example, the person you have interviewed, his details are to be mentioned, you always take up some XYZ names. You always make up names. It can be a very true study, but you take up names like Doll, or John did this, Stella did this, until and unless it's very much required for you, and it's a case study on very much big person. So I think preserving the credential, the personal credentials of the person whom you're interviewing or whose things you're using in your primary survey also becomes very much important. And the last, while we're talking just about the ethics, the publication ethics are to be followed as well. So if you will go and submit your research in particular a journal, and it happens that we submit our papers in one journal, and we submit in so many, and let's say it is being accepted in one, and then you're like, yes, you can publish. You, if you give them consent to get published in that one, and let's say after some time you get a approval from some other journal which is very good journal, you need to make sure that you're informing them before you give them the permission to publish there, because one particular paper cannot be published in twice and thrice different directions. Then also the transparency, or whatever methodology has been followed in a particular, that has to be done. Consent is important, privacy is important, as I mentioned, plagiarism is important. I think that was all from us for today's session. I am really sorry to everyone for actually taking this too long. But if we have a few questions, we can quickly take them up, because we have session tomorrow and we have a session on 2nd of August as well. Look into the, I'm also joining the G Meet for everyone. So if there are questions from over there, maybe we can also present the GMeet thing over here, and 5-10 minutes of questionnaire round can be taken up at this point.
So there's a question from Akib. Would you like to turn on your microphone and ask your question?
Thank you so much. Can you just tell me my voice is clear?
Yes. Yes.
First
Go
of all,
ahead.
I want to say very, very thank you and grateful for this session, because you have tried to cover many, many things in one session. I think it's not really easy. And I am Mohammad Akib. Basically, I am from Pakistan. Currently, I am doing my master's degree in political science in Indonesia. So I really want to just ask that you have just ignored the theoretical framework in research, or is or is it not included in research what you really trying to explain in your research about climate or something? And the other thing is, as you mentioned in the research, the one of important thing is variable. So I want to just ask that the variable is really important in the research, what we conduct in the positivist type of research, or is it also important when we are going to do the interpretive research or something? We are trying to understand meaning making for something. We are not just trying to do something only data, but we are also trying to understand. I think you can understand better as interpretive research. So I just want to ask these things. And
Yes,
again, thank you so
thank you
much.
so much, Akib, for these questions. And this tells me that we have missed a very much important thing. To the first one, the research framework or theoretical framework, very nicely put it. Please note, everyone, this is an important thing. You write a research paper. So I'm talking about a theoretical framework for a research paper, not a dissertation right now. When we're talking about a research paper start with very first important thing is your abstract. Your abstract should be around from 250 word to 300 word, cannot be more than that. And this is the most important thing which will determine if your research is good or bad. As I mentioned, whenever you're reading a research paper, you read the abstract or you read the introduction, and that makes you think that if I have to read it further or not. If your abstract is not good, then nobody is going to read your entire research paper, and they will just skip it entirely. Second, after research, after abstract, we follow something called the literature review, or something before the literature review is also an introduction. So abstract is not an introduction. Abstract is just a gist of your research paper. What all you have to include in that, whatever you have followed with the research question must be in that, the research results must be in that, with the methodology must be in that. So you, in one way or the other, it's abstract is just as someone has asked you, what is your research about? So you tell ki, this is what my research is. I have followed this particular methodology, and this has given me these particular research results. This is all in your abstract. But when we are going abstract, after abstract, the introduction is followed. You just keep this point in a pen or something. Abstract, then you have introduction. Introduction may you write whatever is introduction to your topic. Let's say if I'm talking about climate finance, I will write about what is climate finance. And after this, you start with your literature review. In your literature review, whatever you have read, whatever content is really available, in that particular topic that you're dealing with has to be indulged. All the good things that are there on that particular topic that you're working on should be there. But the literature review is not just putting whatever is available in that particular paper. You have to actually interpret it in your own words. Otherwise, it will give you a high plagiarism or similarity index, right? Plagiarism means that you have just copied others' research into yours and then you're saying that that's yours. So how to make others' research yours in your literature review? You need to firstly, most important, very quick exercise people do is to paraphrase it with AI, right? So you can use paraphrasing. You can also use by yourself that this is what it means. And you can also, let's say someone has mentioned that this is blue because of this reason. So I'm just giving an example that this happens because of this particular factor. You take that up and then you mention that this person has said this and this is blue because of this particular region, and I think that he is not right in that particular matter because it is also followed by these all of these things. It is not necessary that you always agree with whatever that person has said. You can, if you disagree, this tells that you are going to answer something new in your particular research paper, and this gives more credential to your research as well. So in your literature review, you do this thing. After your literature review follows your methodology, the most important part of your entire research. So there are different types of methodology being followed. What are the different ways you have collected your data, how you have analyzed your entire data, the data analysis. So whatever you do, the mathematical thing is put into this data methodology part of it. And after this, you have something called hypothesis testing and whatever. And these sometimes or the other come, you can put it inside your methodology itself. After hypothesis testing, and you might have some results, you come after methodology. Methodology, you list your mathematical results also. And after this, the next part you come is the results. The result, whatever you have done data analysis out in the methodology, you put in your research results in a very good format. After you're writing results, you have something called discussion. You tell people that this is something I have included and this is what all are the different things. And your discussion, you can also put it together, discussion and limitation. Or you can also write limitation separately, but make sure that you write limitation of your research very much clearly. So for example, when I worked on a research and I took a time series analysis from 2014 to 2020 and I'm predicting something, my data points were somewhere around 15 only, and I have predicted something, but those 15 was the only year the policy actually came in a picture. Before that, the policy was not in picture. So this is a good limitation that I cannot at my best overcome. So as such, there are so many different limitations that are there, and you have to list it very, this is one of the ethical thing that you need to list all the things or all the limitations in very good format. After limitations, you have references. That's all. And very much important thing is that sometimes whenever you're referring to a particular data, let's say 5%, 20%, and any good fact that is to some extent different, you also have to add in-text citation in your particular research following every line. So let's say you have presented some specific fact from a particular research from where you have taken, you have to present it in an in-text format, in-text citation. Let's say Vaishnavi 22. Vaishnavi 2022. This is how V Verma dot 2022. This is how my papers are being published. So that, and after adding that in-text citation, make sure the entire citation is being followed in your reference section as well, where that person can go and click in that link and actually check where that has been taken up from. This is it. Second question, variable. It is very important. It is just not very important in quantitative part of it, but it is also very much important in qualitative part of it. It's just that in qualitative part, your variables will be qualitative. Let's say in quantitative, one of my variable is petrol prices and the GDP of a country. These are two different variables. But when I'm talking about a qualitative research, my variables can be something like that this particular event A is being influenced by another event that happened in Chandigarh, that happened in London, that happened in let's say in other part of the world. Let's say it's in USA. So these are events that I have listed. So my event 1 is one variable, event 2 is another variable, event 3 is another variable. So these are different factors in qualitative research also, and you actually it's just as similar to writing an answer and telling it this particular event happened and this is happening because of these different factors. Your factors are not always quantitative, right? And these factors only are we referring to as variables. Another question?
Before we proceed with this, maybe you can address the questions about the publishing of the paper, like what are the requirements and how do people proceed right now?
I think this would be taken up very well in the last session. The publication and the evaluation would be given to you in the last session, which is on 2nd of August. So I'm really looking forward to see you all there, whosoever is so much interested, because we will be talking specifically on publication and that part, not today.
They're asking about publishing on our website, like for the like
Yes,
what they
that
need to
yes,
write
that
right
we
now.
can do. That we
Yeah.
can do. That I am assuring, yes, we can. But given the paper is good, given the similarity index maintains, given the ethical things are being followed, given that the research team has actually reviewed each one of them and they have asked you to do some changes and you have done that. But also, I hope that the 3 days of boot camp, when you attended entirely, would be giving you a lot of good insights to change your research and to write a good one and then send us. And I'm sure that you actually write a good one. Yes.
There's a question regarding the same topic, just so we can all tackle it all together.
I think
What topics and specifications are required for the paper? So
I will
topics I
take
think are on the slides.
Hi,
Yeah,
I will take one from Gmeet once for a moment,
sure.
and then we'll go for two that are there in this, right?
So regarding the topics, I think it was shared on the slides. Maybe we can put that up again.
Whosoever is handling the Gmeet, can you allow all the participants to voice and video thing once? I cannot open it.
Perhaps we can share the slides after the session. It'll be easier, yeah?
Hi everyone. There is some confusion regarding like you guys said that paper should be submitted by July 30th, and Vaishnavi is saying that you will be getting all the information in your last session. Can you make it a little bit more clear at what exactly is?
Yeah. Sorry about that confusion. So I think she misunderstood. We will have a session particularly on publishing in journals and on international platforms. And that information will be given on the 2nd of August session. These are the topics that you can take up to write a paper in this week, just applying what you've learned in these 2 sessions, today and tomorrow. And we'll review it and we'll give you some feedback. And it's just like a practice exercise for you guys to consider.
So final paper will be published, would be sent by August 30th, like after all the editing and all that stuff.
I don't think something about August was mentioned. So the thing is, out of all the submissions that are submitted to us after giving you feedback, after giving you an evaluation, some good ones, really good ones, will be selected to be published on our website. I will clarify again and get back to you tomorrow about the very, very particular criteria if you're asking about that. I think only Vaishnavi can answer that question.
We all are concerned about the submission date, like by which date we need to submit research article or whatever it is, like what you guys are asking for us to
Yeah, by 30th of July.
Okay, thank you so much.
So before, I mean, this is due just during the boot camp. So it's within that period. Yeah.
It will be discussed tomorrow where you have to submit. That will be discussed tomorrow.
Any other questions? I think
Utkarsh, you had a question.
Utkarsh had a question. Yes.
Hi, Tarini. I'm just taking this one on Gmeet once. Give me 2 seconds.
Sure, no problem. Maybe until then, Anirudh can answer some of the questions from the chat. There's some really interesting conversations happening.
Yes, should I ask the question or
Yes,
should
yes,
I wait?
please go ahead. Please go ahead, Utkarsh.
Yeah, so my name is Utkarsh. I have actually done my master's in public policy from IIT Bombay. I'm working in institution called iForest at the intersection of climate change, climate finance, and green jobs. So I know like doing research is an everlasting job, But while writing papers or writing blogs or op-eds, I do encounter many times on the level of how to maintain a certain level on the basis of what should be the degree of uh, more on the side of quantitative research versus qualitative research. Sometimes some topics fall on both the mixed methods approach, but sometimes the quality, sometimes it falls more on the quantitative side or the qualitative side. So how I want to know like how to maintain that balance, like for more sort of an empirical analysis or focus more on the qualitative aspect. Does it depend on the topic or the research question itself, or like how to maintain that balance? Like if you're trying, if you're understanding what I'm asking.
I can give you my insights if Vaishnavi is not here. But according to me,
Sure.
I think it really depends on the research question and your topic, and how do you want to answer that in a scientific way. I can give an example, like in one of the researches that I've done, it has been a combination of both quantitative and qualitative approaches. It was about rainfall management in Jordan, and while it's a very huge topic, so of course there was a lot of volumetric calculations that were done, so a lot of quantity. On the other hand, it was a very subjective matter for the people, so
Do we
that's how
have
I
any other questions over here, Tarini?
yes. So I guess this question of Utkarsh, did I answer it? Would you like some more explanation?
No, I'll ask in like in the future sessions. You can take other questions too.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
great.
so I have one question that we have from Gmail, and this is thoda sa more important for all of us to understand. The question is from Raisuma Saeed. The question goes like, as an individual, how can we pursue research on climate data? So, okay, being one of the founder of Climate Cadets Collective, this becomes and one of the researcher in climate finance itself. It is very bad to say that literally there is no climate data available out there. We are all in the very beginning phase of it. So if you any one of you are working in the field of sustainability and you actually need some of the climate data, there are good sources that you can refer to. There's something called Climate Fund. There is a website that actually has a lot of data on different funds also, and UNFCCC's website has a lot of different databases also that you can refer to, and you can go to a lot of different websites from your particular environment ministries, and there are so many independent research organizations also which are working on it. So I mentioned that these are all different sources available, and and why I'm addressing this important question is because there is no particular climate data available in that particular sense, whichever question you might be dealing with. So you might face a lot of issues while you're working on a quantitative study on climate or sustainability. So this is where I would also recommend you how to actually overcome this thing is by going with a primary survey, because there is a shortage in databases. You can yourself create some databases and actually upload them on good platform, and you can provide them as well, so that or otherwise you can yourself work on a lot of researches on yourself, or by yourself going on ground, collect some good databases. Collecting climate data is the most easiest thing, but can also require a little or more, let's say what we say, efforts and equipments as well. So for example, right now we are working on connecting some of the quality data, the river water quality data from Yamuna. So we are working with another agency as of now, and there are some of the volunteers from Climate Cadets Collective which are going to go on ground, collect that water sample, get it tested in the lab. The lab will give us some of the reports, some of the percentages of whatever harmful materials are present in that particular thing, and that's how we have collected the climate data. Now, this is a private entity which is working on. They will work on a lot of databases. They will work on a lot of research, and then publish it all on themselves. So this is a call to all of you to work on a lot of primary research methodology and primary research thing where you're collecting primary data and working on research researches and getting it published through some other good places, which is making it accessible so that we have more and more climate data and more policy formulation can also happen after that. So I hope I've answered this question. Do you have any other? I think we're also extending the time and we have a session tomorrow as well. So, okay. Do we have anything? So I hope.
There's a
Okay, there's a
sorry,
question.
last
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Yes, Tarini.
Just last
Yes,
question
Tarini.
from oh, but you can I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but the person from Uganda, maybe you can just turn on your mic.
Hello,
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Muteje Tronat from Uganda. I'm a researcher. Okay, I came in late. That's why I said that if possible, they can share the what? They can share a recording on our emails and we can review it. Probably, I'm mistaken on whether are we writing first a proposal to you or we are writing a full proposal. Then the other thing, you're talking more of primary data, but I don't know whether me myself can I use my secondary data, gather information from different sources. World Bank has previously produced the data set. I can get some little information from there and I produce a report. So I don't know. Are we producing a concept note which is more into a proposal, or we are producing a full dissertation or a report, a research paper that you're going to be publishing by after 2nd August? That's my question.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your question. So right now, our focus is that we are not obviously our dissertation cannot be worked upon in a week entirely. Not a paper can be worked upon in a week entirely until and unless this is some ongoing research that you are doing and you would like to share with us and you want us to evaluate and tell you some good perspectives. So if there's some particular, because you're a researcher, so you might be working on something on your own, you can share that with us as well. But what I am looking forward to, what we as an organization are looking forward to is research articles and research papers if possible, which is also having some word limit length of 7,000 to 8,000. So these are the two things we are looking forward to have. Now, most important thing is that while you cannot work on a research paper in a week's time, which is almost 3 to 4 days, I totally understand. So you all might be using a lot of AI into it to reduce the similarity and everything, but main it that we do not also want you just go and give us a copy pasted thing that AI generation has made it, because this will not help us and this will not either help you to write one as well. So what I am looking forward to, if you do not have a particular research going on, you are not already working on a research, you work on a simple research article right now. Or maybe you can work on a good abstract also. You can send us three things right now. You may note it down. First is you can send us a good abstract. Abstract must be abstract. If you are sending us an abstract, I think that we cannot publish that abstract for sure, but on a longer term basis, our research team can assist you in building upon that abstract with you into a paper to in the coming time, because the abstract cannot be published entirely, but if you send us an article, that can be published on our website, and if you send us a paper, we can try to help you out in publication and in edition as well. I think a dissertation becomes a big task because it takes an year or so to write a dissertation. Yes. I hope I have answered your question, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Because previously I've been looking into, in Uganda, we are having one of the longest eco pipeline. I know everybody has gotten to about. So I'm just forecasting I'm looking into the effects of that pipeline in the long run.
I have one more thing that for all of you. There is this one thing that we call life cycle assessment. How sustainable this particular thing or particular activity or one particular product is. So there can be a research paper whether a plastic straw is more sustainable than a paper straw or a metal straw, and there have been papers on the same thing. So you can also take up one small activity around you and see how much sustainable it is. Is it sustainable at all, or is it not sustainable at all? Just do one assessment, write something on it. That's just one small given prediction for your research. Now I'm so sorry, everyone. We will have to cut short to this particular meeting because we have tomorrow as well. So we will be taking
So,
up all the questions, whatever important questions you have that you want us to address. I hope you have already mentioned them all in the Google form. Keep adding it in that, and we will address them all tomorrow and the coming day as well.
I have one important question. Do you guys collaborate? Like I'm in US and I'm working for an organization. They are working for the environmental health issues. And if we want to have some kind of collaborative research work or study, is it possible for you, for your organization to collaborate for those?
Absolutely. We are always looking forward to collaborate on a lot of different things. I think we haven't had the time to introduce you, but there's something called, if your organization is in Delhi, which I feel that you are, is in India,
Oh,
which I feel the name. You're not in India? It's a
Well,
US
Shnavi, you can
organization.
come out video and
I'm in.
hello.
Pardon?
Hi, Sonia. To cut it a little short, I am just saying that yes, absolutely, we're open to all the collaborations. Just send us an email directly.
Okay. So your organization name is? I,
I
I
am
just
so sorry. You have to figure
what's
this out by yourself. I cannot
okay,
name this.
no problem, no problem. Yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah,
I'll see
yeah.
how it.
It's Climate Cadets Collective. You might have received a lot of
Yeah, I
emails, and
see
then
through.
at the end
Yeah,
of the session, you
yeah,
asking this question
yeah.
makes
Okay,
us feel a lot of bad.
okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Tarini, maybe we just can call it off for today.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody, for participating. Please feel free to post your questions on the WhatsApp group and we'll try our best to answer it. You can also use the Google form for that. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.